Three things that happened yesterday at my NDIA Art Tribunal case conference that left me absolutely speechless. So, we hear a lot about disability appeals, NDIA, and art in the news at the moment, but what I'm not hearing about is what is happening inside those appeal rooms. So let me take you through what happened at my case conference. Now, for anyone that isn't following, this was my second case conference. The first one was also appalling. I had an art facilitator be biased the whole time, and the NDA couldn't tell me one evidentiary gap I had in my case. Honestly, this one wasn't that much better. One, my functional capacity assessment was dismissed. So, my GP and psychologist actually said it was one of the best they'd ever seen. It was done by my long term treating physio, a clinician who understands my condition and who used WHODAS 2, which is the NDIA's own preferred tool for someone that fits in the other category with a disability. So, why was it dismissed? Well, first, because it wasn't completed by an OT. When I asked for the legislation or the operational guideline or the rule or policy that said it must be done by an OT, I was told that the Act is old and that no legislation was identified. So, couldn't tell me why. It was just from their experience, so the NDIA's respondent or representative, from their experience day to day, why an OT should do it. Second, I was told that my WHODAS wasn't the representative's preferred tool. She literally said, "That's not my preferred tool," but it is the NDIA's published preferred assessment on their website in the disability other category, which I fit in. Clear as day. Then, thirdly, I was told that my assessment didn't adequately separate between reported from and observed capacity. And I think this completely misunderstands my disability. I technically can turn my neck, but because of my craniocervical instability, I've been medically advised not to due to the risk of paralysis, brainstem injury, and other life threatening neurological complications that could happen. I can raise my arms, but it compromises my blood flow, increasing my risk of thrombosis and embolic complications. And if I actually keep my arms up too long, I can lose consciousness due to my subclavian steel syndrome. My treating physio understands this vital clinical distinction. The agency representative appeared not to appreciate the difference between a physical incapacity and a medically I can never say this word, contraindicated activity. Contraindicated? Anyway, brain fog from all of this stuff. I just got thinking, how can one independent random OT observe me not putting a cup away from the dishwasher because I can't raise my arms, or watch me not drive or not work? Make it make sense. Finally, I was told that you're not going to make me change my mind about what is the best possible evidence before the tribunal based on my experience. That is a quote. I had an advocate there taking notes and minutes, and I said to just write word for word any quote that is showing any kind of bias or any kind of procedural unfairness. So grateful for that help. This representative obviously has zero experience with connective tissue disorders because it doesn't matter based on your experience what you think. It's based on the legislation, and I meet the criteria. Now we're up to number two. I know that was quite long. We are up to number two, which was the evidence wasn't read properly. Now, throughout my entire case, I have pointed out about 9 times they've misinterpreted my evidence. More than 8 months into the process, and this agency representative is still misidentifying my health team and what their roles are. So she misidentified my diagnosing specialist. When I corrected them, she said, "Well, then, or who is your diagnosing specialist?" My diagnosing specialist has already been identified in multiple pieces of my evidence. It's been accepted by the agency. My diagnosis has been accepted. They're just saying it's not permanent. So this left me wondering, how we are this far into proceedings, yet there is still misunderstanding on such a fundamental fact of who diagnosed me. And then three, the attitude of the NDIA representative. The lawyer and the art facilitator were actually lovely, so compassionate, and that's what I needed. They really de-escalated me because I was so compassionate. The worst part of this whole experience for me is how I felt walking out of that room. I am 33 years old. I've lost so much to this disability. I did not choose this. I did not choose to become disabled. No one fights for years, pays all this money for treatment, for reports, for specialists, just because they want to be on the NDIS and be rotting the system. I expected a professional discussion about the evidence and how it meets or doesn't meet the legislation. Instead, I walked out feeling like I had to defend myself just for being disabled. I have written to the tribunal on this so that this is recorded on my case, and I encourage anyone that has any kind of experience like this to write it down and send it to an email to all the parties to have it like on record. I've attached my correspondence on the website so you can actually read in detail what happened in my appeals meeting, because I go into it in a lot more detail. Read it for yourself, and you tell me what you think. Gosh, my little nose is red. Goes red when I get upset. But I guess my final thought or my final takeaway from this is that we need to stop accepting this as normal. My sister, after the case conference, went down a rabbit hole on Reddit and read story after story about, oh yeah, the NDIA draw it out intentionally, or oh yeah, they don't read evidence properly. Like somehow this is normal and part of the process. It's disgraceful what we are putting vulnerable people through. Remember that 70 to 75% of NDIA cases or appeals are overturned by ART. This means that many people shouldn't have even been put in that appeals process position. When so many decisions are being ultimately overturned at the tribunal, why are we not asking why are we being put through this in the first place? What is the government doing about this? And why is no one keeping the NDIA accountable for these behaviors and these processes? These processes are breaking the very people that it's supposed to support. Every unnecessary appeal comes at a cost, not just financially, emotionally, physically, psychologically, for people that we're already fighting some of the hardest battles of our lives. I know personally people that have become incomplete quadriplegics or have had strokes because of my condition being not managed or not supported. Just watch the documentary Complicated. Every second screen was like, X person passed away 8 months later. This is what happens when my condition is not managed. Results can be fatal. Australia, we can do better than this. We should expect better.